You're listening to Finn Voices on Healthcare Now Radio, where we highlight and amplify the voices at the forefront of health innovation that improves people's lives. Join us for an inside look at the change makers driving conversation and answering the most important questions in healthcare today. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Beth Friedman, Senior Partner at Finn. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and my guest today is Robert Robinson. Robert is currently Vice President and General Manager of Honeywell's Healthcare Solutions business, and that's within Honeywell's Sensing and Safety Technologies group. So we're going to be talking about sensing and safety technology today. As an engineer by trade, Robert has extensive experience in the sensor industry, so he's a great person for us to talk to about this. His work includes automotive, aerospace, industrial, and medical. He has an eye toward the future, and he's really the perfect person to talk with us today about innovation in this particular segment of the healthcare industry. Robert, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Beth. I'm really happy to be here and really excited to talk to you and engage.
Thanks for joining us. Before we dive in, when you and I were preparing last week, I realized that we had something in common. We have both been to Africa in two different unique ways. I have actually traveled there on vacation and on a bit of a mission trip to South Africa, Botswana, Liberia, and Morocco. And of course, you're actually from the continent.
Yes, that is correct. Born and raised in Nigeria. And I think when we chatted, I reminded you that you've actually been to more African countries than I've been to.
Yes, that was pretty fun to talk about. I actually am looking forward to my next trip. Hopefully in the next few years, I want to do another safari in Botswana again, if I'm blessed enough to do that. Let's talk a little bit more about your background. So obviously come from Nigeria, but tell us what led you to your current role and led you to get involved in healthcare specifically.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. Interestingly, from childhood, I've always had an affinity for technology. And so growing up, my vision for myself was always to be an engineer. And growing up as a young kid, the first view or perspective you have of engineering is about trucks, fire trucks. And so that really pivoted me more towards automotive and background in mechanical engineering. And so when I got out of college, my first role was actually working in automotive applications. But quickly, coming from a family of a lot of medical professionals and also experiencing family with some health challenges, I also had a keen eye for healthcare. And so I was able to, somewhere along my career, with my background in automotive, I was able to connect the sensing technology component that was used in automotive to applications in healthcare. And so within Honeywell, I found a niche, which is basically trying to enable healthcare applications with advanced sensing technology capabilities to deliver better healthcare outcome for patients and their families.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm really keen to talk to you about the sensing technologies. I've seen so much advancement in the past few years on that. So let's dive into that a little bit. I really am interested in this sensing technology part of that, Robert, because I find that so interesting. I understand it's one of Honeywell's most important areas as we talk about the hospital at home care model. So hospital at home, certainly a big initiative in healthcare. We hear about it quite a bit. I know the University of Michigan found that 88% of Americans ages 50 to 80 agreed it's important to stay in homes as they grow older. And I'm in that segment. So, it's an important topic for me and my family. Tell me a little bit about what hospital at home means for your business and really how is Honeywell involved in that aspect of healthcare?
Great question. I think when you think about hospital to home, I think first is, trying to frame that and understanding what that really means. In a very summarized sense, it is the decentralization of healthcare delivery process, basically moving from high acute hospital-based therapy centers to more less acute home mobile healthcare, enabling patients to take therapy or obtain therapy in the comfort of their home. Now, there's tremendous value in this. One, there's a lot of data that suggests that patients are a lot more comfortable, just like you cited, in their homes, and it helps in basically healing and getting the patient back to normal faster. The other thing also that it does is that it does have a significant implication in the healthcare system today. There's some statistics out there from the World Health Organization that's projecting that the number of patients the number of people over the age of 65 is going to double over the next 10 to 20 years. That's going to put tremendous strain on the current healthcare system. In the United States, particularly for us, the number of patients over 65 years of age is going to go from approximately 56 million people in the next 10 years to approximately 71 to 73 million people. That's 20 million, almost a 20 million increase. So if you think about our healthcare system today, adding an additional 20 to 30 million patients into the hospital today would be a significant stretch for the hospital. So what does it mean to transition these people to the home, and what does it do for the system? It literally helps the system cope and attend to these patients and delivers better healthcare outcome, as we talked about in the beginning. So what are we doing in Honeywell to support this? We're doing a number of things. We're developing systems and solutions that can enable patients basically transmit information directly from their home to therapies or to hospitals. We're also enabling doctors to be able to reach their patients at home and get data from their patients. So in both ways, we're enabling communication. And when you think about the data that is being transferred between the hospital and the home, you think about vital signs, right? Most of those vital signs are collected with sensors. And those sensors are sensors that Honeywell provides. So we're enabling that transition from hospital to home.
Got it. And you know what? I hadn't thought about that perspective of the explosion, really, right, in the senior population. I mean, our hospitals and health systems and physician practices today can't even handle the volume, right? I mean, sometimes like with a specialist, you're going to wait a month, 2 months to see somebody. So, you know, you turn up the volume on that you're right. That's going to be a serious impact on our industry. So I can see how this is really going to help. Let's think about the technology. So you mentioned the sensing. That's going to help us enable this shift. Any other technologies you have in mind, or any other thoughts on what technologies we're going to need to really support all these seniors and being able to give them more care in the home?
Yeah, so as we think about, enabling this home transition for patients, one of the challenges that many healthcare providers are going to face is there's going to be a tremendous amount of data generated from patients at home. So if you think of the concept of blood pressure monitoring, for example, if you're in a hospital, there's a limited number of times where your blood pressure is measured and tracked. When patients go to the home, and the explosion of patients over the age of 65, there's going to be a significant amount of data that's going to be generated. Now, we don't see the same number of growth in terms of providers. So nurses, doctors, those resources are still pretty restricted or pretty constrained. So the question is, with this significant amount of data, how do we make decisions around it? And this is where I believe fundamentally that artificial intelligence provides a significant capability, because most times with the value of AI, you could actually make decisions or share decisions, right? Rather than just a bunch of data, you could actually structure that data and provide insightful content that could enable a decision-making process, rather than doctors or patients or nurses having to go over a significant amount of data to decide what should be done or what not to do. So I think AI is going to have a critical part in enabling that transition, particularly around the decision making and also curating the data so that is able to be used effectively to drive decisions.
Mm-hmm. And keep those clinicians as productive as they can be without getting them burned out like they already are today, right?
Absolutely correct.
Super. I think about these patient populations. The other one I'm really keen to hear about from your perspective is sort of the underserved population. So maybe patients that live in healthcare deserts, or they have difficulty reaching a hospital or health system. I heard a statistic recently that as much as 80% of the country really lacks good healthcare infrastructure. So any thoughts on how Honeywell is addressing that?
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. I think most times when we talk about healthcare, there are two categories of healthcare issues that are really bubbling up to the surface, if I call it that. One of them is the resources constraint, which affects almost every aspect of healthcare, particularly in the healthcare desert, as you framed it. These are regions or areas where the resources constraints are even exacerbated because of how remote or how rural the place may be. And so the same strategy or the same concept of freeing or enabling and driving efficiencies in urban hospitals really applies to the healthcare desert, because traditionally in some of these areas, patients would have to drive 50 miles, 100 miles to see a specialist or to see a doctor. And if we're able to offer certain therapies or a number of therapies remotely at the home, these patients will not have to struggle to find resources or healthcare resources. So the same value that we drive in urban cities and hospitals in terms of driving efficiencies in hospitals and urban cities, those same strategies apply. So when you think about sensors, disposable sensors or sensors enabling data collection from the home, AI enabling data collection from the home, all of those also apply and will enable and erase those healthcare desert, because now those same patients would have access to some of the best doctors and the best physicians across the world or across the globe, wherever they are. They'll have access to those resources.
So you are listening to Fin Voices on Healthcare Now Radio, and my guest today is Robert Robinson, Vice President and General Manager of Honeywell's Healthcare Solutions Division. We are talking about innovation in technology that will support hospital at home, not only today, but we're also talking a lot about the future. So, Robert, one thing I'm curious about with hospital at home is clinician productivity and burnout. So we've already kind of talked about that. And then you've talked about the sensing technology. I want to, if you don't mind, I'd love to get a little bit more into the weeds about what Honeywell is doing there. What does that sensing technology look like? Can you kind of describe it for us?
Yes, in a sense. So when you think about sensors, what sensors do, they enable the collection of vital signs from the patients. And those vital signs are indicators of the wellness or the well-being of the patients. Honeywell has a long history of developing, manufacturing, and supplying advanced sensors into healthcare application, medtech application. We are doing the same today. The only difference is we're migrating more into smaller, miniaturized sensing technologies that could be placed on the patient or around the patient and enable the patient to be mobile, move home, or go to a remote location and still transmit that data back into the hospital. So we're creating basically a mobile type sensing performance capability that could take data from the patient at home, transmit that data back to the hospital, to the doctor's office, or the hospital where the doctor can take those data points and make decisions on that patient. So that's an area where we're very focused on creating both the tools and software to enable those capabilities across a number of vital signs collection from patients. It's an area that we're excited about, and Honeywell's really looking to expand our footprint and capabilities within that space to enable better efficiency in the healthcare sector.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm curious with the sensing technologies, and I'm thinking that we did talk about this last week when we first met. I assume, you could use those same sensing technologies even within the facility?
Yes, absolutely. If you think about it, a patient in a hospital, depending on the protocol or the medical protocol or wherever the patient is, a nurse has to go into the patient's room maybe every 4 hours or so to collect vital signs. Sometimes those vital signs collection are very manual in process, so they're done manually and they're writing down that information on piece of papers or little medical boards. And basically what we're enabling is the ability to collect that data automatically and put that data directly into a electronic healthcare record system where the nurse themselves don't have to write down the data or do any manual transcription of that data. So working with partners and hospital partners to enable that transition of manual data collection into an automated data collection, that drives significant efficiency, even in the four walls of the hospital, enabling those patients to enjoy a better experience in the hospital without being interrupted or being probed by nurses to collect data from them or do their vitals when they're in the hospital. So there is a significant application even in the four walls of the hospital.
Yeah, in my experience as a caregiver, I've slept overnight in an ICU room and an acute care room. And you're right, those vital sign checks and just checking on that patient. They say the worst place to sleep is a hospital, I think.
No, that is correct. It's interesting because patients generally need the best rest they can get. But at the same time, the nurses have to do their job and come in and check and get vital signs to monitor the patient. So it's a very delicate balance.
Yeah, and I'm sure on the other side of the coin, if a nurse can spend more time on another task besides having to check a vital sign, they're probably pretty grateful for that.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's some stats out there that says that I think more than 50% of the calls the nurses get are not clinical calls. They're not clinical related. So they're non-clinical calls. And so streamlining that, making sure that the nurse understand the difference between clinical dials or calls versus patients just wanting to change a remote control, a TV channel with a remote control, or asking for a cup of water. I think all of those things makes both the patient and the nursing experience better. And it actually enables the nurses to focus more on the patient and address clinical issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So another question for you. I am one of America's quote unquote aging members. So I'm I'm like in the last few years of baby boomer, right? So I'm always interested in technology innovation sort of for seniors for my generation. I think I've covered that on another one of my shows. Are there any specific things that Honeywell's doing really for seniors? I guess that's the easiest way to put it.
I think the beauty about innovation, I think, is that it's the value of it is cutting across multiple use cases, right? If you think about today's seniors, I think today's seniors have the privilege of growing up, at least to some point, with technology. So many people today use cell phones and have apps and smartphones and things of that nature. I think it puts today's seniors at a tremendous advantage compared to past generations where they can interact very well with technology and have the competence to do that. Now, from a Honeywell perspective, one of the things we're doing as we continue to develop our solutions, it's about the ease of use. How easy can a patient interact and use the technology comfortably within the confines of their home without needing a technician or without needing a clinical professional to help them? And that ease of use that we're driving is across multiple things. One, miniaturization, making it smaller that it could be mobile. It could be on the body. You can carry it. You can move around with it. The other thing also we're doing is making it very simple, on and off switch, for example, being able to see it. Is it a red light or green light, right? You can easily tell. And, easy apps on your phone that you could really tell what's going on. So making it very simple, very clear so that seniors can use it. I think when we think about seniors today, there's a lot of value and a lot of capabilities that seniors bring that enables that home shift in terms of healthcare, right? Because if the seniors were not as close to technology and not able to use technology, it would be a little bit more challenging. But today, seniors are able to do that. And so the only thing we have to make sure in all of our technologies as we build on top of what is already existing is making sure that the ease of use and integration into the home is simple and seamless.
And, I think about, I was obviously I'm the last of the baby boomers, but I have a 18-and-a-half-year-old adopted son who, he's what they call a digital native, right? That's all he knows. So, and I know his generation, and it's kind of sad. I think you and I also talked about this. They aren't caring about their health as much as, say, my generation is. And it makes me concerned, for the next 20, 30 years. We talked about the explosion in my age group putting pressure on that health system. But what about this generation that's coming up that, quite frankly, I'm not sure why, but quite frankly, is just not as interested in maintaining their health? And, I actually foresee they're going to actually maybe have more chronic condition problems than the group now, than the baby boomers. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a concern across experts are looking at that, and that's a concern across different experts groups with respect to not just the approach of younger generations to health, but also when you think about just the lifestyle balance, right? The environment and the number of things. On average, we are seeing the number of younger people with chronic diseases increase significantly. So one area that I think advancement in technology can help in this is really around patient monitoring. Today, a lot of people have devices on them that could either measure certain vital signs or at least give them some information around how much exercise they're doing or how much time they're spending either sitting or standing. Integrating technology into one's life could have a tremendous value in improving the health outcome or improving the health of people. So we believe fundamentally that as we continue to grow our remote patient monitoring solution, continue to build upon our remote access data collection system and integrate that more into the home and awareness, we believe that that's going to enable younger generation as they continue to get older, they will begin to realize the value of health. And with all the tracking and monitoring, it would give them the ability to be disciplined and work towards improving their health outcome down the road. So interestingly, I think everybody has an opinion about social medias and the impact it has on younger generation. But I also think that technology has a positive side. And in the healthcare sense, this is probably one area where technology will play a very positive role in helping the younger generation actually take care of themselves better and drive better health outcome for them in the future.
Oh, I hope so. I hope you're right. I think, think about maybe making these wearables and things like that fun for them, right? And making them interactive and entertaining even, so that they'll embrace them. I hope that's right. I'd love to wrap up today with really asking you any final thoughts on two things: where sensing technology might be headed, and then sort of that whole thing we just talked about, this aging of the future, and any other technologies that you think are gonna be supporting us. The one thing I think about is the younger generation. At least I think will have a much better. They won't be afraid of the technology. They'll be ready to embrace it and adopt it. So I guess there's two sides of that coin, right? They might not be healthier, but if we can get the technology in their hands at home, they'll probably be more apt to use it.
That is correct. I think if I take a step back and I look at the landscape in healthcare today, I think fundamentally the future of healthcare, although it looks challenging at the moment, I think it looks bright in the long term because of the advancement of technology. I believe, from my role today and the work we do here, we're pretty close to some innovation and some great ideas that are coming up. And I believe that technology would do for the healthcare space what is done in a number of areas and number of verticals in markets in the past, right? For example, I do believe fundamentally that technology will be what unlocks the efficiencies in the healthcare system. Everything from point of care diagnostic solutions to home diagnostic solutions and the democratization of diagnosis at home, and also patient monitoring solutions from the home, from less acute setting. It's going to drive significant advantage and significant insight for the patients and also for the providers. I think the route to unlocking efficiencies in healthcare definitely runs through the technology space. And at the heart of that is sensors. I think sensors are going to be what enables that vital sign collection, that enables artificial intelligence to analyze that data and give insightful information that could lead to decision making. And so we're really excited at Honeywell. We're really excited at the role that we see us playing in this space, helping our partners, helping patients, helping providers and payers to navigate this very challenging landscape. So I'm really excited about it. And so looking forward to seeing what the future holds for healthcare, for all of us.
Yeah, exactly. I look forward to hearing more about the sensing technologies in particular. Okay, so we've got a few more minutes before my time is up. And you mentioned that as a young man, you loved automotive. And I know sensing technology has really taken off. Like in my car, I've got all kinds of beeps all the time telling me what I'm doing wrong. What's next on that horizon? Do you want to take a prediction there?
So I've actually been out of the automotive industry in a while, but here's where I think there might be some potential. There might be some convergence of healthcare sensing and automotive sensing. So imagine being in your vehicle and your vehicle being able to collect vital signs and being able to stop you and tell you if you are having a problem for you to pull over. That's a potential. So imagine someday somebody's driving down the road and they have a cardiac issue and the sensor is able to tell, the vehicle knows that there's something going on, an irregular heartbeat, and the sensor flashes up. There's a light that comes up in the car and says something is going on, and you pull over, or the sensor automatically from the car advances and calls 911. You pull over on the side of the road, and rather than the police officer alone showing up, an ambulance shows up and picks you up. So it's a potential that I see very much in our near future.
Yeah. We could do our pilots in Florida, right? With all the snowbirds that are driving around down there.
Very possible. So smart cars with advanced health and sensing capability is probably near our future. Maybe even faster than autonomous vehicles. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure. How about if our steering wheel can test our heart rate, right?
Exactly. Who knows, right?
Does it on the treadmill now, right? Why not the steering wheel? Robert, thank you so much for being on our show today and talking about innovation to support the hospital at home care model. You know, it's really such an important topic in healthcare. And of course, we're all aging, so it's good to hear what Honeywell's doing here. And I want to thank you both professionally and personally.
Thank you very much. Glad being on your show. Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners. Thank you to the audience for joining us today. Learn more about Finn Voices and check out our previous episodes on our show page at Healthcare Now Radio, or follow the show's hashtag at Finn Voices. The easiest way to reach Robert is on LinkedIn, and you can also learn more about Honeywell's healthcare business at their website. This is Beth Friedman with Finn Partners, and I've been bringing you Finn Voices, discussion of innovation in healthcare technology. We look forward to talking to you next time.
Finn Voices is brought to you by Finn Partners, a global marketing and communications agency working across industries and services. Whether inside our walls or on the front lines of health transformation, we stand together to create meaningful and measurable impact on the world around us. Learn more at finnpartners.com and follow us on Twitter @FinnPartners.